This is Frederick Wakuliaka. I'm back here today with the weekly summary, daily business intelligence brief, week of Monday, 1st June to Friday, 5th June 2026. Welcome back. You're watching the weekly summary of the daily business intelligence brief. The Friday wrap up where we take everything that came across the wire from Monday to Friday, strip out the noise, and give you the 5 things that actually matter for your business right now. I'm Frederick Wakuliaka, founder of Frederick Cybersecurity, and every week in this brief, I track the threats, the policy shifts, and the AI developments that directly affect medium enterprises. The 50 to 200 person firms in financial services, professional services, and healthcare that are doing real work, holding real data, and operating with real constraints on time and budget. This week ran hot. 5 days, 5 editions, 15 stories. And when I look at them together, there is a pattern that I want you to see before you close this window and go back to your week. The pattern is this. Every major incident this week was not about a sophisticated attacker breaking through a hardened defense. No. It was about an attacker walking through a door that was left open. A misconfigured VPN, an unreviewed open source package, a phone that had never been audited, an email account that nobody checked for 5 months, a Windows feature that no patch will ever fix. So let's open the doors. That is this week's theme. Let me take you through each day. Chapter 1, Monday, 1st June 2026, Palo Alto VPN bypass, the door your remote access is leaving open. We opened the week on Monday with a threat intelligence lead that should, and directly on the desk of whoever manages, that should land. We opened this week, I repeat, we opened the week on Monday with a threat intelligence lead that should land directly on the desk of whoever manages your remote access infrastructure. Palo Alto Networks issued an advisory confirming that a critical vulnerability in its PAN OS software, the operating system that runs Palo Alto firewall and VPN appliances, was being actively exploited in the world. The law tracked as the flow tracked as CVE 2026 0257 allows an attacker to bypass authentication on the Global Protect VPN gateway entirely. Let me put in plain language. If your organization uses a Palo Alto firewall to allow staff to connect remotely from home, from a client site, from a hotel, and that appliance is running a vulnerable version of PAN OS, an attacker does not need a password. They do not need to steal credentials. They do not need to compromise an account. They can log in as if the authentication system does not exist. Because from their point of view, it simply does not. This is the category of vulnerability that security teams call a pre-authentication bypass. It is the worst kind. Every country you, every control you have placed downstream of the login, multi-factor authentication, identity verification, conditional access policy becomes irrelevant if an attacker can get past the gate before any of these controls check their work. The exploitation was confirmed as active, meaning this was not a theoretical risk at the point of Monday's brief. Attackers had already demonstrated working exploit code and were using it against real targets. The action from Monday's brief was direct. Check your Palo Alto appliance firmware version. If you are running a vulnerable build, apply the patch immediately. If you cannot patch immediately, restrict access to the management interface to trusted IP ranges only. This removes the remote attack surface while you schedule the update. Do not schedule this for the next maintenance window. Do it before anything else this week. Chapter 2, Tuesday, 2nd June 2026. 3 stories. 1 warning your supply chain is a threat vector. Tuesday delivered 3 stories, and they each came from a different direction, but they all pointed at the same underlying problem. The things your team deploys without a security review are now the most attractive targets for attackers. The threat intelligence lead on Tuesday was the miasma worm. Security researchers confirmed that a threat actor had compromised the Red Hat continuous integration and deployment pipeline, the automated system that Red Hat uses to build and publish its cloud services software packages. The attacker used that access to inject a credential stealing worm into 32 official Red Hat NPM packages. 96 versions in total, downloaded approximately 80,000 times per week. The worm's function was to harvest cloud credentials, SSH keys, API tokens, and cloud platform identity credentials from every developer machine that installed a compromised package. And it did not stop there. It then attempted to propagate by spreading to every other package that the compromised account had permission to publish. This is what a supply chain attack looks like from the inside. The attacker did not target your developers directly. They targeted the infrastructure that delivers code to your developers' machines. And because the packages carried valid cryptographic signatures, they came from the official Red Hat pipeline. There was nothing in the package itself to raise an alert. The action from Tuesday: if any developer in your organization ran an npm install command on or after 1st June 2026, treat the cloud credentials, SSH keys, API tokens, and registry tokens on that machine as compromised until you have confirmed otherwise. Rotate them, audit access logs. Treat it as an incident response task, not a precautionary measure. The second story on Tuesday was the Colorado AI Act. Colorado enacted its Artificial Intelligence Consumer Protection Law in 2024, and the compliance deadline arrived on 30th June 2026. Less than 4 weeks from Tuesday's brief. For medium enterprises selling products or services into Colorado that use automated decision-making systems that make or contribute to consequential decisions about employment, lending, housing, or insurance, the law requires risk assessments, impact notices, and opt-out mechanisms. If you have AI tools in your customer-facing workflow and you have not reviewed this law, you have less than 4 weeks to determine whether it applies to you. The action from Tuesday was to check whether your AI tool usage meets the thresholds the Act defines, and if it does, to begin the compliance documentation process immediately. The third story on Tuesday moved into the AI insecurity section. Meta's AI assistant, the chatbot integrated directly into Instagram, was confirmed to have been used as a vector for account hijacking. Attackers were using social engineering techniques through the Meta AI interface to manipulate the platform's password reset process and gain access to target accounts. For enterprises using Instagram as a business channel for marketing, client communication, or brand presence, this matters because a compromised business account gives an attacker a direct line to your followers and a platform to conduct fraud in your name. The action was to review the account recovery settings on every business social media account and confirm that recovery options point to secure, monitored email addresses rather than personal accounts. Let's go to chapter 3. Wednesday, 3rd June 2026. Android drive surge and the shadow AI problem hiding in your own offices. Wednesday brought 3 stories, and the one that has stayed with me is the last one. I will come to that first. The threats. The threat intelligence lead on Wednesday was an Android framework 0-day confirmed under active exploitation, tracked as a CVE 2025 48595. This is a privilege escalation vulnerability in the Android operating system framework. The layer that manages permissions and system-level access across all Android applications. Active exploitation on a mobile operating system vulnerability means attackers have already deployed working code in real attacks. For medium enterprises, the immediate concern is the Android devices your staff use for email, for two-factor authentication, for business applications, and for accessing company systems. A successful exploit on a compromised device can escalate a standard application to system-level access, potentially reaching stored credentials, corporate email, and authentication tokens. The action from Wednesday: enforce mobile device management policy to require Android security updates on all devices that access business systems. If you do not have a mobile device management platform, this is the case for acquiring one. The second story on Wednesday was Drive Surge, an initial access broker campaign that has been running since early 2026 and is still active. Drive Surge operates by compromising legitimate websites, the kinds of sites your staff visit normally, and injecting them with scripts that redirect visitors to malicious payloads. The delivery mechanism is click fix, which presents the victim with a fake browser or application error message and instructs them to run a command to fix it. The command delivers malware. The secondary payload in recent Drive Surge campaigns has been fake updates, a dropper that installs remote access tools onto the victim's machine. The deceptive power of ClickFix is that it works precisely because it looks like a legitimate technical instruction. Your staff are conditioned to follow prompts. A message that says your browser is out of date and provides a command to fix it is designed to look like something your IT department might send. That is the attack. The action from Wednesday: train staff to recognize the legitimate software up. Train staff to recognize that legitimate software updates never instruct you to open a terminal window and run a command. That pattern error message followed by a command to copy and paste is a confirmed attack signature and should be reported immediately. This pattern where you have an error message followed by a command to copy and paste, that is a definite attack signature and should be reported immediately. Now, the story that stayed with me, the Verizon 2026 Data Breach Investigations report, included a finding that cuts directly to the governance question every business leader should be asking right now. The report found that shadow AI, artificial intelligence tools deployed by employees for work purposes without formal IT review or approval, is now detectable on a significant proportion of corporate devices. Staff are using consumer AI tools, personal AI accounts, and third-party AI services to do their jobs. They are pasting documents into chatbots. They are summarizing emails in tools that have no data processing agreement with your organization. They are feeding client information into systems that you have never seen, never approved, and never contracted with. The Verizon finding is not that this is possible. The finding is that it is already happening at scale in environments that have existing AI governance policies. Policy is not enough, configuration is required. The action from Wednesday: audit AI tools access, audit AI tool access, audit the AI tool access on your managed devices using your endpoint security platform. Identify which AI tools are being used that were not approved through IT governance. Then have the conversation about what is permitted, what is prohibited, and why before the data exposure becomes an incident report. So chapter 4, we are now on Thursday, 4th June 2026. That's yesterday. 5 months, one account, 0 alerts. What a real breach looks like. Thursday's lead story is one of the most instructive breach cases I have covered this year, not because of its scale, because of its timeline. Researchers from Symantec and Carbon Black published a report this week on a confirmed intrusion against a major global stock exchange. The target was a senior executive's Outlook email account. The attacker gained access through a compromised credential and spent the next 150 days, 5 months, exfiltrating the entire mailbox in small, carefully timed batches. Excuse me. 150 days. During those 5 months, the attacker read every email, every strategic document attached to a message, every client communication, every financial discussion, everything that passed through that account. And all these 5 months, nobody noticed. The reason nobody noticed is in the technique. The attacker did not use an external file transfer service that would trigger data loss prevention alerts. They used Dropbox and OneDrive personal consumer cloud storage accounts that produced traffic indistinguishable from a legitimate employee synchronizing their own files. And rather than connecting to Microsoft infrastructure by name, which could have appeared in DNS logs, the attacker hard-coded Microsoft's IP addresses directly into their tooling, bypassing DNS logging entirely. The attacker had studied the monitoring environment. They knew what would raise an alert, and they avoided it with precision. So, for medium enterprise leaders, the implication is direct. Monitoring for outbound data transfer to non-malicious domains is necessary. It is not sufficient. An attacker who uses legitimate cloud storage services as exfiltration channels will not appear on any block list. The detection requires behavioral analysis, looking for unusual volumes of data moving to cloud storage from a specific account at unusual hours. The action from Thursday: review whether your email security and endpoint detection platform monitors. Review whether your email security and endpoint detection platform monitors for anomalous data transfer behavior. Not just connection to non-bad destinations. If it does not ask your security vendor specifically what their detection capability is for cloud-hosted exfiltration, if the answer is unclear, treat that as a gap. So that is the action you need to take. Review your email security and endpoint detection platform monitors for anomalous data transfer behavior. They should also look out for anomalous data transform behavior, not just connection to non-bad destinations. If it does not ask your security vendor specifically what their detection capability is for cloud-hosted exfiltration, if the answer is unclear, treat that as a gap and rectify it. The second story on Thursday came from Verizon, from the Verizon 2026 Data Breach Investigations Report. A different finding from the Shadow AI statistic covered on Wednesday. The DBIR this year reported that vulnerability exploitation has overtaken credential theft, as the most common initial access vector in enterprise breaches. In prior years, attackers primarily used stolen usernames and passwords to get into organizations. In 2025 and into 2026, they are increasingly exploiting unpatched software vulnerabilities before credentials are even needed. This is a structural shift in how organizations need to prioritize their defenses. If the primary path into your environment is not if the primary path into your environment is now an unpatched vulnerability rather than a phished password, your patch management process is now your most important security control, not your identity management program. Both matter, but the relative urgency has shifted. The action from Thursday: review your patch compliance reporting. Determine the average time between a vulnerability's public disclosure and its deployment on your managed systems. If that number is measured in weeks rather than days, it needs to come down. The third story on Thursday moved to the AI governance space at the national level. The Trump administration issued an executive order establishing a 30-day federal review framework for artificial intelligence used in national security applications. The order directs federal agencies to assess AI tools in use across intelligence and defense functions against a defined security and reliability standard within 30 days of the order's publication. For medium enterprises, the immediate operational relevance is the signal this sends about direction of travel for AI procurement standards in regulated industries. Financial services and healthcare organizations that supply products or services to government agencies should anticipate that AI governance documentation, evidence of testing, validation, and risk assessment for AI tools used in your operations will become a standard contractual requirement in the near term. The action from Thursday: begin building your AI tool inventory and governance documentation now, ahead of it becoming a contractual obligation. There's chapter 5 now, which is today. We have finally reached today. Hooray! The headline is Russia WordPress and the AI agent that is already a breach. Friday, we closed the week with 3 stories. Each one is independent. Together, they make an argument I want you to hear before the weekend. The threat intelligence lead on Friday came from Russia, specifically from Gamaredon, the hacking group operated by Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB. Gamaredon has been one of the most persistently active state-sponsored threat actors targeting Western organizations and Ukraine-linked entities since at least 2014. This week, researchers confirmed that the group has added a new technique to its arsenal, and that is worth understanding in detail. The technique exploits a path traversal vulnerability in WinRAR, the file compression and decompression tool that has been a standard fixture on Windows machines in businesses across the world for decades. The vulnerability tracked as CVE-2025-8088 affects every version of WinRAR prior to version 7.13. The flow allows a specially crafted archive file, something that looks like a normal compressed folder, to write files to locations on the victim's computer that the archive should never have access to. Specifically, it can write directly into the Windows Startup folder. The Windows Startup folder is the location from which programs run automatically every time Windows boots. A file written there does not require the user to open it, to click on it, or to interact with it in any way. It runs at startup automatically every time. The payload that Gamaredon is delivering through this technique is a two-stage malware package. The first stage is Gamma worm, a self-spreading worm that propagates across USB drives and network shares. Once one machine is infected, Gamma worm looks for every connected drive, every accessible network folder, and attempts to copy itself to those locations. In an office environment where staff share drives and pass USB storage devices between machines, a single infected device can reach the entire network without any further attacker involvement. The second stage is Gamma Steal, a document exfiltration tool that locates files on the infected system and uploads them to attacker-controlled cloud storage. The campaign has been active since January 2026 and was confirmed ongoing at the time of Friday's brief. The action is specific. Open WinRAR on any machine in your organization and check the version number in the About screen. If it reads anything below 7.13, that machine needs to be updated today. Not this week, today. And separately audit USB drive usage across your environment. If your organization does not have a policy restricting which USB devices can connect to managed devices, Gamma Redon has just given you the reason to create one. The second story on Friday moved to a threat that affects a specific category of organization but affects it acutely. Researchers confirmed on June 3rd that attackers were actively exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities in two widely used WordPress plugins, Kirky and Burst Statistics. The exploit chain allows an attacker to escalate their privileges on the WordPress installation. From a low-level user to a site administrator, and from there to take complete control of the website. For professional service firms, law practices, accountancies, consultancies, and for healthcare organizations that use WordPress to power client portals, appointment booking systems, or patient intake forms, this is not an abstract web security story. A compromised WordPress site that holds client information
This is a real risk for WordPress sites that
A compromised WordPress site that holds client information is a data protection incident under United Kingdom's GDPR. It is a notification obligation. It is a potential regulatory investigation. It is reputational damage with the clients whose data was accessible through that portal. And beyond the data exposure, a compromised site becomes an attack launchpad. Attackers who control your website can serve malware to your visitors, redirect your clients to phishing pages, and harvest credentials from anyone who logs in through your portal, all while your site appears to be functioning normally. When your organization deploys an AI agent, a tool that runs autonomously accesses your systems, takes actions on your behalf. That agent is given credentials, it is given access to data stores, email systems, calendars, customer records, financial platforms. It is authenticated to the tools it needs to operate, and then it runs around the clock without supervision, without logging into a portal the way a human employee would, without a login screen that would alert you to an unusual access attempt. Gartner's finding was that attackers have recognized this and are shifting their targeting accordingly. Instead of stealing human credentials, which requires phishing an employee, bypassing multi-factor authentication, and potentially triggering identity alerts, attackers are targeting the AI agents that already hold authenticated access to everything the attacker wants to reach. The agent does not have a multi-factor authentication prompt. The agent does not recognize a phishing email. The agent simply executes whatever instruction reaches it through its input channel. The survey finding underneath the Gartner analysis was the number that stopped me. Most organizations have no visibility into which systems their deployed AI agents can reach or what permissions those agents carry. An AI agent with access to your customer database, your email system, and your file storage, running unsupervised with no audit trail, and with permissions that were never formally scoped, is not a productivity tool. It is a standing breach that has not yet been triggered. So, the action from Friday's brief: before deploying any further AI agent in your organization, map the permissions that agent requires to perform its function. Then cut every permission that is not strictly necessary. An agent that needs to read customer records does not need to write to them. An agent that needs to send emails does not need to access your financial systems. Scope it to the minimum, document what it can reach, review that document every quarter. So that is the weekly action summary. 5 days, 15 stories. Before I close, I want to compress this week into the 5 actions that I would prioritize above everything else if I were sitting across the table from you right now. One, check. Number one, check your WinRAR version today. Anything below 7.13 is being actively exploited by Russian state actors right now. This is a only 5-minute task. 2, if you run WordPress for a client portal or business website, audit your plugins before Monday. The Karki and Burst statistics exploits are live. Unpatched plugins are open doors. 20 minutes of work. 3, pull an endpoint report that shows which AI tools are running on your managed devices that were not approved through IT governance. You cannot govern what you cannot see. Start with visibility. 4, ask your IT team or managed service provider one question: what is our average time from patch release to full deployment across managed systems? If they cannot answer immediately, that is the answer and it needs to change. 5, map the permissions on every AI agent currently deployed in your environment. If you cannot do that in under an hour, your agents have more access than anyone in your organization knows. That is the definition of an uncontrolled risk. So if you cannot map the permissions of every AI agent currently deployed in your business environment, if you cannot do that in under an hour, your agents have more access than anyone in your organization knows. So that is uncontrolled risk. I've defined it for you. Check that out. So these are 5 things, not 15. Do these 5 before next Friday, and this week will have been worth something beyond the headlines. So this is the week of 1st to 5th June 2026. 15 stories, 5 days and 15 stories and one consistent theme. The open doors that attackers are walking through are not exotic. They are ordinary, unpatched firmware, unreviewed packages, unmonitored accounts, unapproved tools. These are not failures of technology, they are failures of process. And process is something every organization of every size has the ability to change. So the daily business intelligence brief publishes every weekday at 9 a.m. GMT on LinkedIn. The AI breach report publishes every Wednesday and Friday, and this weekly summary comes to you every Friday here on YouTube and across all platforms. So I'll be back with tomorrow with the AI breach report, a summary of this week's AI breach report, Wednesday and Friday's issue, and then get ready for the weekend business intelligence brief after the AI breach report. Thank you for listening.